This morning, my wife told me that she thinks a divorce is our best bet. This is the second time divorce has been on the table. A year and a half ago, she filed without prior discussion, but after I found out, we decided to work on things and try to figure it out. A big part of our problems was my work making me miserable, and after the divorce filing, I chose her, scaling my time at work back to reprioritize. Things in that front came to a head when I had to shut down my business in March of this year. She told me this morning that she loves me, but she's not in love with me, that she's been hurting and unhappy and she needs to be done. This all happened via a FaceTime call as I am currently traveling with our 3.5-year-old daughter visiting family. I think this is a huge mistake. I'm pretty convinced that she's depressed. She said to me a few weeks ago, "I'm miserable every day in this relationship," which was hot on the heels of "every day of my life sucks because I'm a woman" a week or so before that. Of course, the first could be explained by me being a terrible partner, but I'm not. I'm not perfect by any means, but I'm putting in the effort. But obviously, if I tell her now that she should get checked for depression, what she'll hear me say is, "If you don't want to be with me, you must be crazy." As recently as a week and a half ago, she was thanking me for moving along the process of finding a new couples counselor. I asked her today if that thanks was insincere. She said it wasn't, just that she doesn't let herself think about this stuff when I'm around. And me being out of town made space for this stuff to come to the surface. I've been fighting for our relationship for the last year and a half, and I just can't bring myself to give up. But at the same time, she's an adult and I can't make her do anything. I don't know. My instincts are to keep fighting, do everything I can do, write a long email or letter, call and beg to keep talking. But if she's really made up her mind, none of that would help. At the end of the call, I asked if we were going to continue the conversation, if her mind was fully made up, and she just said, "I need to be done. I need to be done." I'm terrified on her behalf, my behalf, and my daughter's behalf that she's going to learn down the line that our relationship wasn't really the problem, and I feel like all of our lives will be destroyed in the process. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Tough situation. You have my sympathy. My instincts are to keep fighting, do everything I can do, write a long email or letter, call and beg to keep talking. But if she's really made up her mind, none of that would help. You can't control what she's feeling or how she's going to act on it. Your instincts are a natural response to the situation. You're feeling a loss of control and/or power over your situation. Ultimately, it only takes one person to want a divorce. Flip side, it takes both people wanting a good working marriage to have one. It sounds like deep down you know this. Find a supportive community and work on letting her go. Sorry. Comment 2. People can divorce for any reason or no reason at all. Relationships must be mutual, so if she wants out, that's it. It doesn't matter the reasons why. If you think she will backtrack, you could do something like not date anyone for a year or two in case she comes back, but I wouldn't waste my time with that. I'm sorry this is happening to you, but there's not much you can do. You will only make things worse by clinging to her or forcing her to stay. Now, for the update. A week has passed since the FaceTime call with the wife. Like, a full week. Can't say it's felt like much of a break from the chaos, but whatever. Yesterday, I picked up our daughter from daycare, and honestly, I was just happy to see her little face. She was all smiles, and it kind of made the past week feel a little less heavy. On the way home, I overheard 2 other parents talking about some relationship struggles, and for a split second, I felt this weird sense of camaraderie with them. Like, yeah, brother, I know what you're going through, but of course, I kept my mouth shut. Can't exactly chime in with, "Oh yeah, my wife wants to leave me," while I'm stuck in the kitty pickup line. So, after getting home, I decided to reach out to the new couples counselor. Figured it couldn't hurt to have a session, if for nothing else than to get some stuff off my chest. She suggested we focus on some communication techniques, which, honestly, was kinda obvious because we need all the help we can get. I managed to arrange a session with the wife for the following week, so here's hoping we don't end up throwing chairs at each other across the room. In the middle of all this, I found a flyer for a local family event at a community center. Looked like a good distraction for me and our daughter. I thought about it, then invited the wife to join us. Surprisingly, she agreed, but there was this hesitation in her voice, like she wasn't too sure about it. I just went with it though. The more time we can spend together, even if it's awkward, the better, right? Fast forward to the event. Honestly, the atmosphere felt a bit lighter than what I've been dealing with at home. There were games and activities, and our daughter was just thrilled to be there. She even won a small prize at a ring toss game, and the way her face lit up, yeah, it made the whole thing worth it. I tried to smile at the wife, hoping to spark some kind of connection, but she seemed more engaged with our daughter than with me. I get it, she's just trying to be a good mom, but it still stung a little. In a moment of bravery, I tried to strike up a conversation, but she quickly redirected her attention back to our daughter. It was like I was invisible. Then I noticed this couple nearby arguing a little. Nothing too crazy, but I felt this pang of recognition. Like, oh yeah, I know that feeling. But I pushed it aside because, honestly, I didn't sign up for a therapy session in the middle of a community event. Later on, the wife mentioned feeling a bit overwhelmed by the whole event. I could see it in her eyes, though. She was just tired. I suggested we leave early to avoid a total meltdown from our daughter, and she agreed. As we walked to the car, she got a text and looked kind of surprised. Surprised enough to quickly hide her phone. I asked if everything was okay, but she brushed it off like it was nothing. The next day, I found this unfamiliar number on her phone. I didn't want to go snooping like a total jerk, but I had to confront her about it. Of course, she dismissed it as a wrong number. Yeah, okay, whatever. We attended a family birthday party the following weekend, and honestly, it felt like she was a million miles away the whole time. She spent more time on her phone than actually engaging with anyone. We're at a birthday party and she's glued to her screen. During the cake cutting, I noticed she was texting like crazy. I couldn't hold my tongue any longer, so I brought it up after the party. She became super defensive, claiming she needed space. Space? What do you mean, space? We're already like 2 feet apart in this relationship. I could feel the tension rising between us. It's like we're just waiting for the other person to snap. Desperate times call for desperate measures, right? So I suggested a weekend away as a last-ditch effort to reconnect. She agreed, but her tone suggested reluctance. I get it, we're in a bit of a pickle here. A few days before our trip, I noticed a change in her behavior. She seemed distracted, often lost in thought, just staring off into the distance, probably contemplating her life choices or something. The night before our trip, I found this note tucked under her pillow. Like, what the hell? I didn't read it, but it just felt like one more thing to add to the pile of confusion between us. So we set off for the weekend, both of us knowing that the stakes had risen. The drive felt heavy with all these unspoken words, and you could just sense that something's gotta give. Edit. The weekend away was both a challenge and a chance to confront what we were avoiding. We stayed in a cabin, and the first night was uncomfortable. I tried to engage her in conversation, but she was distant. We spent the next day exploring, and our daughter loved it, but the tension between us remained. That night, I finally confronted her about the note. She explained it was a reminder of good times we shared, which broke her a little. We ended up having a real conversation about our feelings, and she admitted she's been feeling lost and overwhelmed. We're still figuring it out, but there's hope. Aita for telling my partner to chill out about the kitchen mess. Partner, 34 years old, and I, 31 years old, recently moved to our first newly built home after being together for 3 years. This morning we had a conflict and my partner doesn't understand why I'm upset. I'm not sure if I can explain myself better or just change my way of doing things. I cook most of the meals for us, and that includes a wide variety of food. A lot of them are pan-fried, chicken breast, mince, etc. I also like pan-fried bacon egg sandwich, which is his favorite. Today he finally decided to give this house a good clean. It's been done by me until today. He is not happy that there are some oil stains on our gas glass top stove and is asking me to be more careful when I'm cooking because he thinks these will stay forever and damage the glass. He also added that when he cooks, he is always careful, so there are no stains from his cooking. So if he can do it, I can do it too. For your information, he only cooks the same type of curry, and he just cooks it with a pressure cooker. I'm not happy about what he said. Firstly, those stains can come off because I have done the thorough cleaning for the stove 2 times already. I just take the rack off and wipe the gas top with warm soapy water and a cloth. He can't remove the stain because he only wipes the stove with a bloody dry paper towel when all the racks are still on the stove. So, once in a blue moon, he wants to take care of the house with very little effort. Instead of asking how to do the job properly, he wants me to be careful because he is incapable of cleaning, or it's not convenient for him to clean. Secondly, he also enjoys the result of what I cook, but I don't want to feel like walking on eggshells when I prepare our meal. It's not like the stove looks gross every time after I cook. If there's a large spill on the stove, I wipe it right away when I wash the pan. The small oil spill is normal, and the stove just needs to have a good clean from time to time anyway. And honestly, I'm happy to clean it without his input. I explained to him the above reasons why I'm upset, but he still doesn't understand. In his perspective, he just asked me to be careful, and I am now upset. He asked me, "So I can't ask you to be careful?" Now we are both unhappy. I don't know if there's a better way to explain myself, or I will just go his way. Now he will start to have boiled eggs, boiled bacon, and boiled chicken breast. And we will just have hot pot or whatever type of cooking that's like throwing everything in the pot with water. If I want to have pan-fried stuff, I won't save a serve for him. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. There's no need to be more careful to prevent something that can be easily cleaned, especially if he didn't notice it before, because you clean it up frequently. I presume you take other precautions to avoid true stains or damage that couldn't be cleaned off. Maybe he wants you to deep clean the stove more often. Maybe he wants a gas stove so you don't have to worry about stains. Comment 2. You're upset because you already feel like you're doing more than him, and him criticizing your work but not pulling his weight is naturally aggravating. He's upset because he doesn't even realize he's not pulling his weight, and maybe even thinks he's doing a lot by cleaning or cooking sometimes, so you getting mad for being asked to do something makes him upset. Now for the update. Several weeks have passed since the whole cooking and cleaning fiasco between me and my partner. I thought we were making progress, but honestly, it feels like we're stuck in the same loop. So one evening, I decided to try out a new chicken recipe I found online. I was feeling ambitious, and the dish looked delicious, so I thought, why not? A few hours later, my partner came home from work, and the first thing he noticed was the smell of pan-fried chicken. You'd think he'd be excited or at least a little curious about what I was making, right? Nope. Instead, he immediately expressed concern about the potential mess in the kitchen. Like, seriously? I mean, I get it. The last time we cooked together, we had a bit of an argument about cleaning up afterward, but come on, give me some credit here. So I brushed off his concern, telling him, just like always, that I would clean up afterward. But he wasn't having any of it. He insisted that I could cook without making a mess, even though he rarely cooks. I mean, excuse me? You're the one who makes curry in a pressure cooker and thinks you're Gordon Ramsay or something. I was just trying to enjoy the process of cooking, but the tension was growing between us as I finished up the dish. He kept pointing out the oil splatters on the counter and the stove, acting like I was committing a crime or something. Finally, dinner was served. It was this pan-fried chicken with roasted veggies and a side of rice. It looked and smelled amazing. My partner sat down to eat, and after a bit of hesitation, he admitted that it tasted good. I mean, shocking, right? During dinner, I mentioned wanting to host a small gathering with some friends in our new place. He immediately shot down the idea, saying he didn't want a huge mess in the kitchen. I felt so frustrated, but I didn't want to start another argument during dinner, so I just let it go for now. After dinner, he started cleaning the kitchen, focusing primarily on the stove. He was complaining about how long it was taking to clean, acting like it was such a huge burden. I offered to help, but he snapped back that it was fine, like I was some kind of nuisance getting in his way. A few days later, we went to a family dinner at his parents' house. It was awkward since I was still feeling the effects of our recent arguments. His mom complimented my cooking skills, and I felt my face turn red. I was like, "Thanks so much." But my partner, in his usual fashion, joked that I should be more careful while cooking. Seriously, I felt so embarrassed. I tried to laugh it off, but I could tell the tension was still there. Then, his dad asked us about our plans for the future. I felt anxious, like, what do you mean plans? I didn't want to get into that right now. But my partner deflected by bringing up the kitchen mess again, and I was just like, really? After dinner, I overheard him talking to his siblings about my cooking habits. They all sided with him, telling him that he should be careful in the kitchen. I left the table feeling isolated and frustrated with the family dynamics. It was like I was the bad guy, and everyone was against me. A week later, I decided to take a cooking class to improve my skills. I thought it would help with the whole mess issue and maybe teach me some new techniques. I told my partner about it, and he reacted negatively, claiming it was unnecessary. I explained that it was to learn new techniques and manage messes better, but he remained skeptical. He suggested we should just cook less messy dishes, and I was like, here we go again. During the next cooking session we had together, he tried to help, but ended up making a mess. I pointed out his mistakes, and he became defensive. It turned into another argument about our cooking and cleaning styles, and I just wanted to curl up in a ball and forget this was my life. In an effort to compromise, I proposed that we would cook together once a week. He reluctantly agreed, but only if we focused on recipes that were less greasy. I was like, fine, whatever. Then I suggested we could combine cooking with hosting friends, and he actually seemed excited. We set a date for the gathering, and I planned out an entire menu. The day of the gathering arrived, and my partner started to stress about the kitchen setup. I assured him that everything would be fine, but he remained anxious. Our friends arrived, and his mood shifted. Instead of enjoying the evening, he focused on cleaning the kitchen. It was like a switch flipped, and he was back to being Mr. Clean again. During the gathering, our friends were all having a great time, laughing and chatting, but my partner was just not present. It was like he was physically there, but mentally somewhere else. I could see him glancing at the kitchen every few minutes, making sure it wasn't getting too messy. It was frustrating. I just wanted him to relax and enjoy the evening with our friends. Edit. Several have asked if my partner is always like this. Honestly, he can be very loving and caring. We've had our arguments before, but nothing like this has happened. I usually handle the cooking and cleaning, and he takes care of the laundry and dishes. Maybe the roles switching caused this? As for the family, they have been nice and supportive in the past, so their reaction surprised me. The cooking class did help though, and I'm planning to take more. Aita for confronting my hypocritical politician brother who excludes me from family events because of my health issues. My brother, 41 years old, and his wife, 38 years old, have made it quite clear that they don't want to see me for the past 5 years or so. They come to my parents' house a few times a year to visit, and when they're there, I can't visit. They have a daughter, 4-year-old, and a son, 18 months old, and as far as they know, I don't exist. They don't talk about me. They ask my parents, 71 years old and 72 years old, male and female, to remove photos of me when they visit. They think my brother is an only child. Neither me nor my parents have had any idea why this is going on. Both of my parents have asked my brother repeatedly about this, and he just stonewalls them. I have been ruminating about it for ages, trying to figure it out. Something happened during a recent visit that revealed everything. My mom was serving her granddaughter some lunch, and she said to her, "Grandma, are you cold?" My mom said something along the lines of, "No, sweetheart, there's just a part of my brain that doesn't work as well as yours," and she was fine with that. Both my mom and I have a hereditary essential tremor, which causes shaking. Mine is significantly worse than my mom's. My brother got angry with her and said she can't say things like that around his daughter. My dad, able-bodied, overheard and took my brother aside. He told him he can't speak to my mom like that. Then my dad clicked in and asked if this was the reason I hadn't met his children. My brother was sheepish, and yes, he and his wife want to protect their children from these things at such a young age, and considering we both have it, they don't want them to be fearful that they will also develop it. It's worth noting that essential tremor isn't my only health issue. I have several, and they affect my balance and coordination to a noticeable extent. I also experience random jerking of my limbs. I also have invisible illnesses, systemic lupus erythematosus and endometriosis. It was very clear that my sister-in-law was bothered by this from the beginning. She used to stare at me across the table, and Mum said she asked her many intrusive questions about my health. Some background information. My sister-in-law is very image-focused. She spends a large portion of her income on designer bags and clothes. She's a lawyer. My parents are nothing like this. My brother is a politician and making his way up. Ironically, he advocates for disadvantaged indigenous people. Now for an update. They came to visit recently, and my mum decided not to see them. She stayed with me the whole time. Afterwards, they sent a framed photo of my dad and their kids without my mum in it. I'm really shocked by this whole situation. I don't know what to do. I already carry so much shame from my health issues, and this is just making it worse. What would you recommend? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your brother sounds like a hypocrite. His political campaigning sounds opportunistic. I would turn up to one of his events and see how he reacts. I live with a chronic sleep disorder, and if people don't like it, then it's their problem, not mine. Good luck, and please don't change for them. Comment 2. I would show up at your parents' house deliberately when he is there and confront him in person in front of his kids. I would then blast him on social media for his behavior, especially with your sister-in-law's family. No, this won't burn any bridges because your brother already burned them long ago. Now, for the update. 3 days after that mess, my mom texted me about a Thanksgiving gathering at my parents' place. My brother and his wife were invited, and I was honestly unsure about going. My parents kept insisting they wanted me there and that it would be fine and everything. I mean, how fine could it be, right? But I decided to go anyway, mostly because I wanted to confront my brother about that ridiculous photo incident. I figured it was now or never. So, the day of the gathering came, and let me tell you, the vibe in the house was super awkward as soon as I walked in. My brother and his wife were already there, holding their kids and just laughing it up like we were one big happy family. Just like that, it felt like I'd been kicked out of my own family again. I noticed my parents had removed all the photos of me again, which was just the final straw. My brother's wife greeted me with this forced smile like she was trying to make it look real, but not even close. She kept her distance the whole time, which didn't bother me at all. The kids were running around, completely oblivious to whatever drama was going on between the adults. They looked happy, at least. Dinner was the usual spread, and my brother made this big toast about family and togetherness. Like, really? After dinner, when the kids were playing, I finally decided to confront him. I asked him why I'd been excluded from family events for years, and he just dismissed it like it was no big deal, saying it was just how things were. Yeah, right. I pressed him a bit more, pointing out that his kids didn't even know who I was. That's when he lost it, raising his voice and saying he was just protecting his children from negative influences. I felt like the air got sucked out of the room and everyone was just staring at us. My brother's wife jumped in, saying my health issues could scare the kids. I felt this surge of frustration and pointed out how ironic it was. Considering my brother's job, he's all about advocating for disadvantaged indigenous people, and here he is, acting like a total snob. His face turned red, and he started accusing me of trying to create drama. His wife backed him up, saying the family didn't need the added stress. I felt so isolated at that moment. I couldn't deal with it, so I just left the room to get some air. Outside, I overheard my brother and his wife talking about the consequences of me being there. They mentioned something about how they'd have to shield the kids from my issues. I went back inside, and the atmosphere was just this super uncomfortable silence. My parents tried to lighten the mood with dessert, but it felt forced, like they were trying to ignore the obvious tension. My brother and his wife packed up their kids early, claiming they needed to sleep. As they were leaving, my brother handed me a note saying I should stay away for everyone's sake. Wow, thanks a lot. A few days later, my parents got a call from my brother asking them to choose sides. I overheard my mom telling my dad that they'd always choose the kids. A week later, my parents visited me and brought a small gift from my brother's family. It was just a framed picture of my brother's family at a recent trip, and I wasn't in it. They were trying to downplay the whole situation, but it was just so obvious that it was on their minds. Then my brother sent a group text to the family, announcing a big holiday gathering, and guess what? No me. Ugh, I just can't even. Mini update. After the Thanksgiving gathering, my brother sent a group text about a holiday event, again excluding me. My parents seem to be struggling with my brother's demands and have been distant. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.